Do you?
Well, you are not a medical professional, and abortion and pregnancy is a medical concern. That's not your identity.
That is my identity. I promise you, that's my identity.
You don't want to get married at all? You don't want a family or children?
Yes, but in the future, but no now.
Well, you're 28, right?
Yes.
When do you want to have kids?
35 maybe.
Well, at 35, 90, from a biological standpoint, at 35 years old, around 90% of your eggs are gone. And your ability to bring a child to term comes down a lot.
I don't think so. Age is a number.
I mean, you can say you don't think so, but realistically speaking, your chances of having a child bringing them to term at 35, that doesn't work often, and it's very expensive.
I don't know. I want to enjoy my life, so I'm not ready.
That for teenage boys now, they are so terrified of the consequences of putting a foot out of line. It's hard enough being a young teenager, working out how things are, working out how to do dating and all of that, without the terror that if you touch in the wrong place at the wrong time, you may find that your whole life is destroyed.
And there is far
too much. Well,
I like that.
As a mother of a teenage boy, I don't like that terror.
That's the
most thing I've ever heard.
That is awful.
I think that men should be frightened
I think
to
you'd
touch
feel
women in a way
differently
that
if you
they're
were
not comfortable with.
But we're talking about
but we're not talking about.
We're talking about
it's an interesting thing that you see. I would say that attitude actually is part of the problem too. That's to me toxic femininity. That is saying you should all be terrified, you men, if you put one
of assaulting.
Well, I think we all understand what sexual assault is. What Isabel's talking about is that young teenage clumsiness in many cases, which is now being recategorised as assault. Is that a problem?
It's not being recategorised as assault. It's always been assault. It's just we're finally talking about it.
I don't agree with that. But I do think it's really hard for a 16, 17-year-old boy now in this environment to know even how to start having some kind of physical relationship with a woman.
Those good boys are all terrified. I know that from talking to my son. He's just like, I'm just not going there. Is that healthy?
Yes, I think it is actually. I think it's better to not have a physical relationship than to have one that could ruin a woman's life.
But then how do they ever start?
Well, don't. If you're not 100% sure, don't.
What are you going to have? A bunch of neutered boys who never had...
So obvious.
We actually do have that. Gen Z is having far less sexual relationships than any ever before.
It's true.
And I'm also interested, I mean, like George and I look at the data and I look at the studies, and I'm really also very much interested in studies like the analysis that was done by the American Psychological Society, which looked at 45 analysis of whether there's sex difference over 20 years. And its conclusion was that men and women are basically alike in terms of personality, in terms of cognitive ability, in terms of leadership. But what it did find was that media depictions of men and women as fundamentally different perpetuate misconceptions, as does workplace bias.
Oh, God, so it's my fault.
So, no, well, you know, you're leaving soon. It's okay.
Men and women actually are more the same than they are different. But the issue is that small differences at the population level can turn into very large differences at the extreme. So, for example, men and women are broadly similar with regards to aggression, although men tilt a little bit more towards aggression. So that if you picked a random person out of the population, male and female, and you guessed that the male was more aggressive, you'd be right 60% of the time. But if you take the 1 in 100 most aggressive people, they're all male. And that's why the overwhelming proportion of people who are in prisons are male. Now, do you want to equalize that? Just out of curiosity. What about bricklayers? They're 99% male. And we've got about 3/4 of the population now in universities in the humanities and social sciences are female.
Yeah.
Are we going to equalize that? And men work longer hours. They work more dangerous jobs. They're more likely to move. They're more likely to work outside. They're more likely to participate in jobs in the STEM fields that are scalable. They make more money for those reasons. And that's all hidden under the idea that the reason that men and women make different amounts of money is because of their gender.